Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto meets a strange blind woman who gives him a deck of strange yet powerful cards. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. In the hidden village of Konoha, a great celebration was occurring. On this day 10 years ago, the great demon fox had attacked the ninja village only to be stopped by the fourth Hokage, who sacrificed his life to destroy the fox. Though that's the story the village tells, it is not 100% true, for you see, the demon fox was not destroyed. In truth, it was sealed away. But it was not sealed in something simple like an urn or a cave. No, it was sealed inside of a newborn child. That child's name was Naruto Uzumaki, and it was due to the fact that the fox was sealed in him that everyone would call him names, glare at him, and basically treat him bad when he was the sole purpose the village was still standing. But our story does not begin with young Naruto. No, it begins with an old woman who currently making her way into the village, watching the children running around wearing fox masks and playing with fireworks, her seemingly blind eyes simply watching them with a smile. It's good to see children in a ninja village being allowed to hold on to their innocence just a little longer. But I feel one young soul is not happy. Whoever this young one is, they are in a lot of emotional pain. The old woman walked towards where the feelings of pain were coming from, avoiding running children, vendor carts, and such with a grace that belied her age and poor vision. Naruto couldn't understand it. Yeah, people were mean to him and give him mean glares, but no one ever said anything truly mean to him except today, on his birthday. He could handle being called Kyuubi brat and demon spawn. He attributed that to being born the day the fox attacked the village. But what that drunk had said to him truly hurt deep down, and he just pulled his knees closer to his chest and continued crying as he remembered what was said. Naruto was just walking down the street happily munching on some dumplings he managed to get, and at a normal price too. Normally he had to pay a lot for food, but the man was apparently a merchant from Takigakure, the hidden waterfall village. Naruto was smiling and had his eyes closed as he walked along, thinking that maybe today wouldn't be such a bad birthday after all. Until he bumped into a man who dropped his sake bottle. "Oh, sorry about that. I didn't see where I was going." Naruto bowed as he apologized. "Hey, don't worry, you little shit. You just gotta ruin the festival for me, for all of us here in the village." Naruto didn't understand what he was talking about. He could tell the man was drunk, and he began backing up, getting ready to run in case things got ugly. "I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going. Lying demon. I bet your parents died when the fox attacked. I know I will and didn't want to take care of demon scum like you. Get out of my sight before I get more angry." Naruto didn't give the man a chance to say any more. He took off running, his face becoming stained with tears as he ran to find a place to hide. Why did he say that to me? My parents, if I had parents, would love me. They wouldn't call me demon scum, would they? No, they wouldn't. Parents are supposed to love their child. Naruto looked out from his hiding place and saw a blonde-haired girl in a nice kimono with her parents. Ino was her name if remembered correctly. She was cute, but like every other girl, she didn't notice him or even say hi to him. If he were Sasuke Uchiha, then it would be different. He watched as her father picked her up and put her on his shoulders as she pointed towards the festival and told her parents she wanted dumplings, making them both laugh. Why can't I have that? Where are my parents? Where is the person to hold me and tell me they love me? I know I didn't just pop out of nowhere, so where did you guys go? Why did you leave me? Dozens of questions ran through his mind as he looked up at the sky, the sun setting, turning the blue sky to a collage of black, orange, purple, and blue. It was beautiful to look at and was one of the few things he never got tired of looking at. While he stared absently at the changing sky, the old blind woman stopped about 10 feet behind him. So this is who I felt. Such sadness and pain should not come from a child as young as he, but what's this? That energy coming off of his stomach, could it be? Yes, it is, a biju, so the child is a Jinchuriki. That would explain why he has so much pain and sadness. The life of a container is never easy, but I have a feeling this one is destined for greatness. Before she could continue her thoughts, she heard the blonde demon container talk to himself. I just wish I had the power to change things. It was at that moment the old woman made her presence known to the boy. But you do, child, or rather you can. Naruto turned around startled at the unknown voice, only to see an old woman standing there. Well, she didn't look that old, maybe early 40s, but her body stance said she could take care of herself very well, but it was her eyes that drew Naruto's attention. They were white, which reminded him of the Hyuga, only her eyes were milky white, not the violet-hued white, which meant she was blind. "Do my eyes interest you, child?" she said in a kind voice, looking at Naruto with a small smile. Naruto blushed at being caught staring, but he was surprised she could tell he was staring at her in the first place. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stare. Forgive me," he said with a bow, hoping he'd be forgiven. She gave a small chuckle and sat down on a nearby crate. "There is nothing to forgive, child. You were merely curious and I cannot blame you for that. After all, curiosity leads to knowledge and knowledge is power. Tell me, young man, what is your name? And you can sit down, I mean you no harm." Naruto just nodded and sat himself down in front of her. Her attire was strange. He had never seen anything like it when the merchants from the other countries would come to town. She wore simple flats and had a long skirt with weird symbols on them that he swore glowed for a second. She wore a hooded short-sleeved shirt with the hood up, and her left arm from her wrist to her elbow was covered by gold bangles. On her right wrist was a bracelet with a large blue stone on it. Her attire was strange, but Naruto couldn't help but be fascinated by it. "My name is Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours?" The blind woman gave him a small smile. "My name? My name is Teresa Castaña, but you may just call me Teresa Naruto-kun." Teresa reached into her pocket and pulled out a stack of strange cards and some chocolate, which she gave to Naruto. "Here you go, Naruto-kun." Naruto took the chocolate and sniffed it before deciding it was okay and ate it, finding it quite delicious. It was the cards she pulled out, though he was more interested in. "Say, Teresa Ba-chan, what kind of cards are those? I've never seen playing cards like that before." Teresa gave another small chuckle as she picked up the stack of cards and began shuffling them. "Because Naruto-kun, these are not playing cards, these are special cards that are very powerful. They can not only tell the future, but you can use them to summon whatever is on the card. Would you like a demonstration?" Naruto was skeptical but decided it wouldn't hurt to learn his fortune or see if they could summon. "Sure, Ba-chan, could you do my fortune first?" Teresa nodded and shuffled the cards again before setting the deck down. Before she could draw the first card, though, Naruto interrupted her. "Ba-chan, how do you know what card it will be if you're blind? Are you a ninja?" He was expecting her to get mad at him, but she surprised him by patting him on the head and messing up his hair. "Naruto-kun, when you become as powerful as me, you don't need to rely on sight. You'll learn that while warriors like the Uchiha and Hyuga take great pride in their eyes, if you remove their eyesight, they're just like any other human. I lost my eyesight a long time ago, but losing it has helped me to see in ways other than my eyes and see things I would never have seen with my eyes. And to answer your other question, no, I'm not a ninja, I am more of a seer than anything, though I do know how to fight and have studied some shinobi arts." Naruto's mouth hung in awe at hearing that she could see perfectly without her eyes, and decided to test her and held up 3 fingers, to which she smiled. "3 fingers, Naruto-kun, now would you like your fortune told or not?" She didn't say it in a mean way at all. In fact, she seemed to enjoy that he tested her to see if she was lying about her sight or not. "Oh yes, please continue, Ba-chan." Teresa drew 5 cards and laid the first one down. Naruto saw it was the 9-tailed fox on it, and below it said, "The king." "Ah, the king, great power will belong to you, but at a price that you might not wish to pay. The 9-tailed fox will in a way play a great role in your life." She laid down another one, and on it was a strange pinwheel shape that he realized looked like the Sharingan. "The pinwheel, the Uchiha, will also play a great role in your life. Whether it be friend or foe will have to be seen." Naruto wondered if this was true, since he was going into the academy soon for his 3rd year and Sasuke was going to be in his class this time. Teresa laid down another card, and on it was a small child holding a teddy bear. Behind him was a weird circle with a 4-pointed star in the center. "The dreamer, a child in pain, will look to you for help, for you are the only one who can help them, as you are the only one who understands them." She placed another down, and on it was a snake poised to attack. "The serpent, a great foe, will cause someone close to you to betray you. For what reason is to be seen." Naruto was in awe. The cards themselves said nothing but the title, and she could gather information from just that. Naruto was wondering if it was possible to learn how to use these cards, though he still wanted to see the last card and see if they could summon things. The last card Teresa placed down had the sun peeking over the horizon on it. "The dawn, beware of the dawn, for with it dangerous times are coming. Foes from the past, present, and future will come together to fulfill a dark purpose which only you can stop." Naruto at first was worried by the fortunes, but it seemed that he had an awesome destiny where he could actually be the hero, be respected. But first he wanted to see the cards summon. Ba-chan, are the cards always right? She smiled, happy he was curious. Most of the time they are Naruto-kun. Sometimes they give us warnings that we must interpret for ourselves, while sometimes they tell of not our own futures, but someone close to us. You just have to learn to interpret them. Now I'll teach you how to read the tarot cards later, as I'm sure you wish to see them summon, correct? Naruto's fierce nod made her chuckle as she picked up the card with the snake on it. Now Naruto, to use the card's power, you must channel chakra into it and say the card's name before you throw it at the ground. Now some cards will summon creatures while some do other things. Now watch as I show you the difference between the serpent and the dawn. Teresa channeled some chakra into the serpent card, causing it to glow blue for a moment. The serpent. She threw the card, and as it hit the ground it exploded into a cloud of smoke. Naruto watched with excitement as a huge snake the size of a horse slithered out of the smoke. Cool. Teresa could only smile at his innocence. Now Naruto-kun, to release the card you say release while channeling chakra like you're dispelling a genjutsu. Watch me. Kai. The snake vanished into a puff of smoke. Awesome. But what happens to the card when you release it? Does that destroy the card? She patted his head again, which made him smile. The only person who did that to him was the Hokage. No, Naruto-kun, the card is sent to another holder. When you release the card it goes there so you don't use it again on accident. The card's magic would have to be recharged again, but some cards when you use them can only ever be used once due to how powerful they are. Those cards when used dissolve. Do you understand? Naruto nodded. Some of it was a little confusing, but he got majority of it. Now here, Naruto-kun. I heard it's your birthday while I was walking, so I figured I'd give you a gift. Here is a deck of your own along with 2 holders. Now I want you to go home and study this deck. Make sure you know each and every card that is in it. Tomorrow morning I'll meet you back here and teach you how to use them, okay? Naruto did nothing but leap at her and gave her a hug. His warm smile and heartfelt thank yous warmed her heart. This child deserved some happiness, and if she could, she'd give it to him. With one last teary thank you, Naruto promised he'd come back tomorrow and be a good student. Teresa could only watch as the blonde-haired container ran off, jumping for joy and nearly hitting several crates and trash cans on his way home. She looked down at her deck and drew one last card and laid it down, smiling at what it showed. On the card was a large toad with a man in a long jacket atop the head with his arms crossed. His silhouette was obscured, making it impossible to tell who it was, but it was the fact she drew this card that made her happy. The sage. My, little Naruto-kun, you will be full of surprises when you grow up, won't you? Come on Naruto, read my fortune next, said one girl with dirty blonde hair and glasses, tugging at Naruto's arm. Naruto's right eye twitched. Every day it was the same thing. Screw you. Naruto's reading my fortune next, said another girl with green hair in a ponytail who tugged on his other arm. Naruto let out a sigh and removed his arms from their grasp and began shuffling his cards, something he did when he was irritated or nervous. If you girls don't stop playing around, then none of you are getting your fortunes read. Besides, some of you have already had a reading before, so having another one won't change anything unless something major happens in your lives. Some of the girls who had their fortunes told before stomped off, moping about how much they wanted to know if they would marry Sasuke, while some who hadn't gotten read yet waited patiently, only to be told to return to their seats by Iruka. Naruto mouthed a thank you to his second favorite teacher, who gave him a small thumbs up as if to say no problem. You're the best, Iruka-sensei. I can only deal with those girls for so long. You know all this, who am I gonna fall in love with? Makes me wonder, maybe I should try it myself. Naruto shuffled his deck again and, closing his eyes, drew 4 cards, placing them down so the back of the cards faced up, preventing him from knowing what was drawn. Show me my destiny. I trust you, he whispered with a voice so low even Kiba with his enhanced senses didn't hear it. He flipped the first card over and saw a nude man and woman kissing while embraced in each other's arms. No matter how many times Naruto drew the card, he still blushed every time he looked at it. The lovers, of course it would show me that. Now show me her identity. Naruto flipped the first card over and saw a raging tornado tearing up the landscape. The wind? Who do I know uses wind? Okay, let's try the next one. See if it'll reveal some more about this wind girl. He flipped the next one over and saw a coat of arms made up of 2 katanas in an X pattern with a kunai in the middle. The blade. Okay, this one is easy. There is only one girl I know of who this card relates to, but isn't Ten-chan hung up over that Neji kid? I'll have to speak to Ba-chan about this. Iruka looked up and saw Naruto was focusing on his cards, which normally he would have gotten mad at him for, but thanks to his weird blonde student and his strange cards he was happily engaged with Ayame, the daughter of Tuchi Ichiraku. Iruka knew for a fact Naruto's grades were okay, so he let him continue his personal reading. He knew the boy was hiding his talents and intelligence for his safety, and it made him sad to know his favorite student was forced to do that. In fact, Naruto could have graduated last year with his friend Ten-ten and the others, but Naruto confided in him that for his safety he had to make the villagers think he wasn't intelligent. Don't worry Naruto, I got your back. Thanks to you I'm happily engaged to a great woman who can make a mean bowl of ramen, and one can never repay you for that. Iruka went back to lecturing and helping the other students with their work. Naruto flipped the last card and saw the serpent staring back at him. I've been drawing you a lot concerning my future. Who do you represent here in the village? Ba-chan said the serpent represented two shinobi from Konoha, but didn't say who they were. Speaking of Ba-chan, I wonder how her journey is going. She should be back soon, so that means more stories and cards. Yes, if there was one thing Naruto loved, it was Teresa's trips. She would travel to all the different countries looking for inspiration for new cards and would come back and tell Naruto of all the things she had seen and give him new cards she made. A tap on his shoulder brought Naruto out of his thoughts and he saw Iruka standing in front of him. You okay Naruto? I dismissed the class about 5 minutes ago. Naruto nodded and gathered up his cards with an embarrassed look on his face. This was a problem he had when doing his own fortunes. He spent so much time trying to interpret the cards he'd lose track of time and zone out. Sorry Iruka-sensei, you know how I get sometimes when I do readings, especially my own. His sensei merely smiled at him and messed up his hair. No problem. Hey, do you want some ramen? My treat. Naruto looked at his sensei and jumped up and hugged him. Other than Teresa and the Hokage, no one else treated him to food, so for him this was a big deal. But no more than 4 bowls. I ended up broke last time thanks to your bottomless stomach. Naruto scratched the back of his head as they walked out of the classroom. Sorry Iruka-sensei. You know how it is, growing boy and all, and besides it could be worse. That made Iruka stop and look at him. Being eaten out of a paycheck by a 12-year-old? What could be worse than that? And how could it be worse Naruto? Naruto gave him a smile that made Iruka wonder if Naruto was about to prank him. I could have a twin sibling with the same appetite, or Ayame-chan could have a bottomless stomach as well. Iruka's eyes widened at this. While Ayame did have a bottomless appetite, it wasn't for ramen, that was for sure. His perverted thoughts were noticed by Naruto, who saw blood trickle from his sensei's nose. Nay Iruka-sensei, can't you at least wait until we get to the stand before you fantasize about Ayame-chan? Iruka nervously laughed while wiping away the blood, making sure no one heard Naruto or saw him with a nosebleed. Sorry Naruto, but you're right, that would be worse. So has Teresa-san come back yet? Naruto shook his head and pouted. He wanted new cards, and if there was one thing he didn't like, it was having to wait for them. No, Ba-chan isn't back yet from her trip. Say Iruka-sensei, the exams are coming up soon. I think this time I'll pass. I can't keep putting it off. Iruka smiled, glad his favorite student decided to actually pass and not purposely fail. I'm glad to hear that Naruto, so if you don't mind me asking, but what were you doing a reading for back in class? Oh that? Well, since so many girls ask me to show them who their true love is with my cards, I decided to try it on myself. The pair was getting closer to the stand and Iruka raised an eyebrow hearing his student was looking for love, but it didn't surprise him since due to Naruto's condition finding a girl was hard. Anything come up? Naruto nodded, his eyes squinted as he walked. Iruka noticed when talking about important readings Naruto would squint his eyes as if to show he was serious. Yeah, I drew the wind, the blade, and the serpent. I don't know who wind relates to. Blade I have a feeling who it refers to, and I don't know anyone in the village who has a connection with snakes. Ba-chan said there were 2 shinobi who had a strong connection to snakes, but she wouldn't tell me their names. Think you can help Iruka-sensei? Iruka thought about it, wondering if he should tell Naruto about Anko, seeing as she was at little less than a decade older than him, but if anyone could understand that woman and her pain, it was the blonde seer walking beside him. The 2 ninja who have the connection to snakes are Orochimaru, the snake Sannin, and his former apprentice Mitarashi Anko. Anko? What does she looks like? Well, Naruto, she wears a brown trench coat, has purple hair, wears a miniskirt, and a mesh top. Naruto thought for a moment before snapping his fingers. Yeah, I've seen her before. She's the beautiful purple-haired woman I see hanging around the Forest of Death a lot. I wonder why the cards point to her. I'll probably have to talk to Ba-chan about this. She's better at interpreting the cards than I am, though she says I'm better at using the cards for summoning than her. Both Iruka and Naruto both sat down on stools in the small ramen stand and were greeted by Ayame, who kissed Iruka and asked how his day was. It was good. Naruto was telling me about a reading he was doing for himself earlier. Ayame brought them both a bowl and Iruka handed him a pair of chopsticks, reminding him of his limit of 4 bowls before they both dug in. While I'm glad to see you eating, Naruto-kun, I would prefer it be healthier so you can grow. A mysterious voice said from behind him. Naruto shoveled what was left of the ramen down and swallowed before turning around and leaping out of the stool to hug his mentor, grandmother. Ba-chan, how was your trip? Teresa smiled and sat down on the stool next to Naruto before beginning her tale. It was interesting. I went to Demon Country and got a few ideas for some cards which I made for you. She looked at the blonde boy with her milky white eyes as if studying him. She could always tell when something was bugging him. Something troubling you, Naruto-kun? Naruto pulled out the 4 cards he drew in class and placed them on the counter to show her. Well, Ba-chan, I did a reading on myself to see who my love would be after being asked so many times by girls, and some of the cards confused me. I interpreted them, but I want to see if I'm right. Can you help me, Ba-chan? The old woman smiled at him. But of course, Naruto-kun, let me see the cards. The lovers followed by the wind, the blade, and the serpent. Let's see if we can narrow down who these relate to. Naruto handed Teresa his deck, which she shuffled with a quickness that made even Iruka do a double take. She then drew a card and placed it under the wind card. The dreamer, whoever the wind is, will be someone close to the one represented by this card. She drew another one and placed it down under the blade card. On the card was a large monstrous 3-headed dog in front of an iron-wrought gate. The gatekeeper, someone who has a powerful ability that must be unlocked, is close to the one who is represented by the blade. Now for the last card. She drew the last card with agonizing slowness and placed it down below the serpent, only to reveal another serpent. It appears both people represented by these cards are close to each other in some way. Very interesting. Did that help, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at the cards and replayed everything she had said to him. For him to find the wind, he would have to find the dreamer, which was easier said than done. He thought the blade represented 10-10, but Teresa's reading made it unclear if it was. He was sure it was her, as no other card was ever drawn when referring to her. He'd have to meditate later and think on it. Now he knew for sure Anko was who the card referred to. Yes, Ba-chan, it did, though the second one makes me have to think on it more. Teresa smiled and pulled a chocolate bar out of her bag, which Naruto hungrily devoured. There were 2 things Naruto loved to eat, ramen and chocolate. After the first time he was given chocolate by Teresa, he ate as much as he could get. Sometimes he was seen eating a chocolate bar in class, which made everyone wonder how he stayed so thin. That's good, Naruto. The more you think, the more curious you get, and curiosity leads to knowledge. And knowledge is power, right, Ba-chan? The blonde said with a smile. The older blind woman nodded and messed with his hair. Well, I'm gonna go train. Ba-chan, did you have any new cards for me? Teresa pulled out a small cigarette pack-sized box and handed it to him. Now, Naruto, some of those I only gave you one of just because of how powerful they are. Be careful and remember to only study them, do not use them. The young boy merely nodded and gave her a salute before running off. Well, he's happy now. I hope he'll be ready for the graduation exam next week. Iruka said before finishing his bowl. Naruto-kun is beyond ready. Since I met him, I've been teaching him everything I know, so he should have no problems passing. After all, he only failed the last 2 tests because he chose to. Teresa said with a smile, her eyes staring at people passing by the stand. Such a peaceful place. I hope this peace lasts, was the thought running through her head as she saw several children playing tag. Meanwhile, Naruto had landed in the empty training ground he liked to frequent a lot. Training Ground 7 it was called, and the only person that ever came here was the one-eyed Jonin with silver hair. Kakashi, I believe that's his name. He's always staring at the memorial stone like he's lost in thought. Poor guy must have lost a lot of friends. Oh well, it's not really my business. Now to see what new cards I got. Naruto opened the small box and pulled out the cards, looking through the stack, noticing unlike the previous packs Teresa has gotten him, this one had lots of single cards, meaning they were either really powerful one-shots or they could recharge after being used. One of the first few cards in particular caught his attention. The card's art was beautiful in a dark way. It was a heart surrounded by shadows and covered in chains. The Oblivion. Man, this card just radiates power, and not good power either. I would test it, but Ba-chan said not to, plus I don't know if it's a one-time use or not. Ooh, another good one. The Revenant. Why'd I get the feeling this will be very helpful later? Naruto just gazed at the card and marveled at the detail. Upon the card were several skeleton arms bursting from the ground. Simple, but that's what Naruto liked. Naruto felt someone approaching and looked up only to frown, as it was only Sasuke. What's up, Teme? Sasuke merely ignored him while sitting cross-legged in front of him. Sasuke took a deep breath before answering. Not much, Dobi. Listen. This is hard for me to ask as I find it to be all superstitious nonsense, but you'd like me to do a reading for you? No problem. You know, Iruka-sensei said the same thing before I did a reading for him. Now he's happily engaged to Ayame-chan. Sasuke looked up, surprised that Iruka would go through this. Then again, he was sure his teacher did it for the same reason he was doing it now, curiosity. Well, I know I've never done a reading for you, so what am I doing a reading for? Love life? Future? How your week will go? Future, Sasuke said without hesitation. Naruto smiled and shuffled the cards extremely fast, making Sasuke wonder if he was actually shuffling. Damn, he's shuffling fast. I think I'd need the Sharingan to keep up. Naruto finished shuffling and had Sasuke split the deck before he drew 4 cards and placed them face down. He flipped the first one up and the serpent stared back at him. I'm starting to hate snakes due to how much I've been drawing this card. Okay, the serpent. Someone with a connection to snakes will offer you something. Whether it'll be good or bad will have to be seen. Sasuke merely listened and decided to keep his comments to himself until after Naruto finished. Naruto flipped the next one and saw the pinwheel. Okay, the pinwheel. This one obviously has to deal with your brother. Naruto noticed Sasuke paid more attention now that his brother was mentioned. He flipped the next card and was surprised to see the mountebank, or as Naruto liked to call it, the faker. On the card was a man dressed in a black cloak holding a different masquerade mask in each hand, his face a large smile. The mountebank, there is more to your brother than you know. He's hiding something about himself. I don't know what it is since I really don't know him, but I'm sure you know what he might be hiding. Now for the last card. Sasuke's mind was running a mile a minute about what the mountebank said about his brother. Something about Itachi I don't know? What could Itachi be faking that I don't know about? Sasuke watched as Naruto flipped the last card and saw a broken man in shackles. Judgment. Something you do later in life will cause you to have great guilt and seek retribution. Naruto began to collect his cards and began to walk off. As he looked over his shoulder, he could see Sasuke had not moved and was most likely thinking about what he had said. By the way, Sasuke, I'll send you your 4,000 Ryo bill later. Have a nice day. That brought Sasuke out of his thinking as his head spun around so fast Naruto worried it would snap off. I thought you did readings for free, Dobi? Sasuke shouted. Naruto simply smiled. Yeah. For girls, when you get some boobs, Sasuke, then I won't charge you. Of course you're kinda feminine already, so I might make this one free. Naruto took off before Sasuke could fully get up. The chase was on, Sasuke chasing after Naruto to defend his masculine pride while Naruto got a one-up on the Uchiha prodigy. Naruto sat in class playing solitaire with some regular playing cards, which surprised some as he usually was never seen without his special tarot cards. What most didn't know was these ordinary playing cards were anything but ordinary. They were a gift from both the Hokage and Jiraiya, and the cards had seals on the back which strengthened them and made them suitable to throw in place of his shuriken. Naruto had at least 12 packs of his special playing cards on him at all times, and those who saw him use them could attest to his deadliness with them. Naruto sighed and gathered up his cards and put them away before pulling out his tarot cards, which immediately got almost every female's attention. Here they come. The moment I bring them out, they're on me like vultures. Hurry up, Iruka-sensei. Naruto shouted in his mind as Ino slid into the seat next to him. He was surprised that Ino had never before asked him to do a reading, but he figured it was only a matter of time. "Hey Naruto," she said with a smile which also surprised him. Most girls who would ask for a reading apparently thought they had to seduce him to get one, so they would talk with heated voices and try to rub up on him. He would admit he was a growing teenage boy with hormones, but he could only take so much. "Hey Ino-chan, what's up?" He grabbed his cards and shuffled them, making Ino give a low whistle at how fast he did it. "Damn Naruto, go any faster and the cards will burst into flames." Naruto had to laugh at that. Iruka said the same thing to him once. He couldn't help it as Teresa had beat it into him. Sometimes literally that he had to shuffle and draw the cards as fast as possible, especially while in combat. "Can't help it Ino-chan, old habits die hard you know." "So what's up?" Ino seemed to become shy at this point, and Naruto immediately knew she wanted a reading. A lot of girls who would not want one would act like this when they finally decided to bug him for one. Kiba's sister Hana was the same way. "Well, I was wondering if you could do a reading for me? I heard Sasuke-kun got one and I want to try it too." Naruto inwardly sighed. Of course it was because Sasuke got one done. Naruto had tried to keep that under wraps for as long as possible, but in the end it was useless. "Sure Ino, what do you want? Love life? Future? What you should eat next week?" The last one got him a weird look, but Naruto waved it off and began shuffling the cards slowly this time. Another habit he got from Ba-chan's lessons. It soothed him and also helped pass time. "Which did Sasuke-kun get done?" "His future, and no, I will not reveal what I drew. I may not like Sasuke that much, but I will respect his privacy." That got a pout from the blonde Kunoichi. "Fine, do my love life then." Naruto smiled and shuffled the cards again with his lightning-fast speed before placing the deck down. He kept his hand on the deck and looked up at her. "How many cards? What difference does it make?" She was actually curious to know. "Well, the minimum is 2, but the more cards drawn the easier it is to pinpoint who your love is." Ino thought for a minute. While she was thinking, Naruto got a glimpse of Choji glancing over his shoulder at the two, and Naruto frowned. He knew his plus-sized friend had a crush on Ino, but she merely was friendly to him. Naruto at the point made up his mind to help his friend and quickly shuffled the deck while Ino wasn't looking. "Don't worry Choji, I got your back," Naruto thought as he waited for the Yamanaka heir to make up her mind. "I'll go with 3 cards then." "Very well then. Reveal Ino's true love, I trust you." "Who are you talking to Naruto?" "The cards, they have a will of their own at times and need to be trusted to give the right answer, just like a friend needs to be trusted to back you up and not betray you." Ino looked kind of confused, but hey, whatever allowed her to find her true love she'd go along with. "Okay, that's kinda weird but cool also. So let's see who I'm with." Naruto drew the top 3 cards and placed them down before flipping the first one, revealing the lovers. "The lovers, this will always be the first card drawn. Don't know why, but I always draw this card when doing these kind of fortunes, even though I only have one in my deck. Now for the next 2. Naruto flipped the next card and Ino gasped at how beautiful the artwork was. On the card was a swarm of beautiful butterflies that looked similar to the ones she would see around Choji's clan house. The butterfly, like the butterfly the man you love, is someone who you wouldn't think of until later. Naruto saw Choji perk up out of the corner of his eye at hearing this. Naruto had told him once that this card represented him, as their clan was known for butterfly designs. Naruto smiled and flipped the last card. On the card was a silhouette of a person extending their hand to help another person up. The Samaritan, the man you love, is a kind man who will always be there for you even in the toughest times. Well, there you go Ino, I have given you hints of who your true love is, now you must find him. These don't make sense. Do you know who my true love is? Naruto nodded. Yup, but I'm not gonna tell you. It is up to you to figure it out. Iruka-sensei did the same thing for Ayame-chan, and Sasuke Teme is trying to figure his out. I don't outright tell you who your true love is, I merely push you in the right direction to finding them. Now Iruka-sensei and Mizuki-sensei are here, so go sit down before you get in trouble. Think about who these 2 cards can possibly represent. If you have too much trouble, ask Shikamaru to help you. Naruto could hear the pineapple-headed boy mumble, "Troublesome blondes," before laying his head back down on the desk. Ino stood up and walked over to her seat next to said boy and thought. Choji looked over his shoulder at Naruto, who merely gave him a thumbs up as if to silently say, "It's up to you now." "Well, my job is done. Hopefully Ino will figure out it was Choji I was talking about and those two can be happy. Now to pass this test and become a genin. The test began with the class doing taijutsu spars against Mizuki. Most of the kids didn't make it to the 2-minute mark except for a few like Kiba, Sasuke, and Shino. Almost none of the girls passed this portion, though Hinata was very close, but Naruto figured it was because most were just being fangirls or were smarter than they were stronger, such as in Sakura's case. When Naruto got called up, he could see anger hidden under Mizuki's smile, as if he had done something to offend the Chunin teacher. Over the years, Teresa taught him he seemed to have a gift concerning reading people's intentions, and it helped several times, especially against Hokage Gigi and Iruka when they played poker. No poker face worked on him in any attempt to mask something he could see. I don't know what Mizuki-sensei's problem with me is, but I got a feeling my test is about to become a lot harder. Naruto got into his academy basic stance and was glad Teresa helped him fix the problems. He still didn't know how she could see he was in the wrong stance since she was blind, but he didn't care. All that mattered was he put to use what she taught him. Hajime. Iruka backed away as Mizuki and Naruto began to circle each other, Mizuki waiting for Naruto to leave an opening for him to exploit. He didn't understand what was going on. No one had taught him academy basic taijutsu as far as he knew, so how was his form so good? Mizuki decided to charge him. Maybe his form was a bluff. As Mizuki charged, Naruto flipped up and brought his heel to the back of his head, disorienting him for a few seconds. Naruto was back into his stance when he landed. Iruka was smiling, knowing that Naruto was now showing his true colors. No more hiding his abilities. Now the blonde boy was confident he could protect himself, and it showed as he dodged Mizuki's attacks, occasionally countering when he could. Unlike the other boys who charged in and tired out quickly, Naruto went defensive and conserved his energy. Mizuki charged him again and threw a haymaker at Naruto's head, only for Naruto to catch his fist with his while bracing his arm. Iruka looked at his stopwatch and saw that already a minute and a half had passed. Mizuki couldn't believe it. This kid who supposedly was a dead last in his previous classes now apparently was an ace student. What had happened to the Naruto who couldn't even do a proper henge and was horrible at academy taijutsu? Before he could charge him again, Iruka had called time and prepared the class to move to the target practice portion of the test. What the hell? At this rate I'm not gonna be able to use him to get the scroll for me. What, did the kid make a deal with the devil or something to become this good? Or has he always been like this? Everyone took their turns at the target practice, with Sasuke leading the boys and Ino leading the girls. Naruto stepped up and pulled out a few playing cards, causing a few to laugh and some to make smart remarks. Iruka just smiled and nodded, knowing just how deadly Naruto could be with those cards. Naruto launched his cards and everyone gasped as they each stuck in the bull's eyes. Iruka nodded and marked down Naruto's score. While Naruto wouldn't be Rookie of the Year due to his poor grades earlier in the year, he would at least not be dead last. Hinata went last and ended up tying with Ino for first place, while Sakura made second. Alright class, let's go back inside for the jutsu portion of the genin test. As Iruka and the class went in, Mizuki stayed behind and walked over to a tree where a man with gray hair and glasses was waiting behind it. Trouble, Mizuki? Yeah, the Kyuubi brat apparently is better than I thought. Got anything to help me out? The man handed him a small vial filled with some white powder and another vial filled with a green liquid. The powder should disrupt his chakra control enough for him to fail, while the green vial is for you in case you get overwhelmed when taking the scroll. Now don't fail, Mizuki. You know as well as I do that Orochimaru-sama doesn't tolerate failure. Mizuki took the vials with a grumble and went back inside. Mizuki, where were you? We need to start the jutsu portion of the exam. Mizuki smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Sorry Iruka, had to go to the bathroom. No problem my old friend, now let's start. Naruto watched as Iruka stepped out and Mizuki went behind the desk and grabbed a case of water bottles for everyone. What Naruto didn't know was that Mizuki had slipped the white powder into one water bottle, watching with a smile as it fully dissolved, leaving no traces. Mizuki went up and down the rows handing out bottles to each student. Mizuki handed Naruto a bottle and Naruto didn't know why, but his gut was screaming something was wrong. Naruto immediately shuffled his deck and drew 2 cards and placed them down. He flipped the first one over and was greeted by a picture of 2 men shaking hands. One of the men held a dagger behind him. He flipped the second one and once again was reminded why he hated snakes. The betrayer and the serpent. I knew my gut feeling was right about you, Mizuki, but what does Anko have to do with this? Unless it's not referring to Anko. Naruto decided to not touch the water bottle given to him and could see Mizuki trying to hide his anger. As Iruka had once said after losing to Naruto, no poker face worked on him. Mizuki left the room and Naruto watched as student after student was called to take the test, some coming back in happily displaying their new Hite Ite while some came back crying having obviously failed. Naruto had emptied the bottle of water out and noticed when Mizuki came back in to call his name he was smiling thinking the bottle had been drunk. Now Naruto, we need you to do a henge, a kawarimi, and make at least 2 bunshin. Naruto immediately did a henge of Iruka and while the hair was slightly discolored it was otherwise perfect. He then swtiched places with a chair and then pulled out a card from his holster. Naruto couldn't help but stare at the card's artwork. The picture was of 2 young men walking past each other. The man on the right held a sword to the other man's neck and his left hand was covered with lightning. The man on the left held a kunai to the sword wielder's neck and in his left hand was a swirling sphere of energy. Brothers, was all Naruto said as he pumped chakra into the card and threw it down watching as the card exploded into 4 clones of himself. What was that? Naruto, you fail. Mizuki yelled only to be stopped by Iruka. No, he doesn't. Naruto made 4 clones. Naruto has too much chakra to make a standard bunshin, so clones like these that require more chakra are more suited. Besides, we didn't state what kind of clones he had to make. Congratulations, Naruto. Go over to the table and pick up your Hite Ite. I'm proud of you. Mizuki was inwardly grumbling, wondering what happened that his chakra control didn't get shot to hell, while Iruka was proud of the blonde. Naruto cancelled the technique and picked up the card, placing it in his holster. The good thing about that card was it just needed to be recharged with chakra to be used. Naruto selected a black Hite Ite and wrapped it around his forehead. After putting off graduating for 2 years, he had finally decided now was the time. Naruto just smiled as Iruka went through his speech about being representatives of the village now and to make everyone proud. Remember to be back here in 2 days for your team assignments. Dismissed. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office, Teresa and the Hokage were both drinking tea and discussing random topics. Teresa-san, I really wish you'd consider living here in Konoha. I know it would make Naruto happy, though he'll probably miss your trips. Teresa sighed. She knew Naruto wanted her to live there, but that was not how her people did things. Her people were nomadic by nature and staying in one place never lasted. Besides, how could she expand Naruto's cards unless she traveled? I am sorry, Sarutobi-kun, but it is not in my nature to stay in one place for too long. My people have always been nomadic, and unless I take my trips Naruto's seer powers will stop growing and I cannot allow that. I am sure you understand, Sarutobi-kun, but as much as I'd like to settle down, I also want what is best for Naruto. I understand, Teresa-san. Speaking of Naruto, he graduated from the academy. As I knew he would, he only failed the last 2 times because he was afraid of the villagers, but he no longer carries that fear. Does he still not know about the fox? Yes, he still does not know, but I plan on telling him. It'll be better if he knows now than if he goes through life unaware and accidentally calls upon the beast. I don't like it, but I do understand your reasoning. Any suggestions for who his sensei should be? So far, Hitaki Kakashi has expressed interest in being Naruto's Jonin sensei. Yes, I can see why. Naruto's resemblance to Hitaki-san's sensei is remarkable. Sarutobi was speechless. Had she figured it out? She couldn't have figured it out so easily. As far as he knew, only Jiraiya, himself, and Kakashi knew who Naruto's parents were. It is not hard for me to notice, Sarutobi-kun. There are many things I can see, and the boy when he gets older will bear a striking resemblance to his father who also resides within him. But do not worry, Sarutobi-kun. Naruto-kun's secret is safe with me, and that is one thing I will not tell him. I already know of your reasoning without you having to say it. As for his Jonin sensei, I was thinking of one Jonin in particular to teach him, sort of an apprentice-like relationship. I am glad you will not reveal Naruto's secrets. The boy does not need you breathing down his neck. Which of my Jonin did you have in mind? I believe Konoha's snake mistress will be a good teacher for little Naruto-kun. As you know, Naruto has expressed interest in her due to his recent readings, and I think he can help heal her broken heart. What do you think, Sarutobi-kun? Teresa took a sip of tea while waiting for the old Hokage's response. I wouldn't mind Anko being Naruto's sensei, as she has wanted to be a sensei for quite some time, but one thing has prevented it. Ah yes, your former student's curse seal, nasty little thing. If you would allow me, I could help her with it. How? Not even my student Jiraiya, who is a seal master, could remove it. Teresa simply smiled and placed her cup down. My dear Hokage, I never said I could remove it, but what I can do is help remove the part of it that is preventing little Anko-chan from reaching her full potential. The small part of Orochimaru's soul that is infused with the seal. Can you actually do something about it? Teresa looked at him and smiled, though it was a smile that made a shiver run down his spine. Oh yes, I can take care of it. Bring Anko here tomorrow, but first ask her if she wants to be Naruto-kun's sensei. Even if she says no, I'll help her. Why would you help even if she says no? Why not? Why should I let little Anko-chan suffer when she doesn't deserve it? I am merely fulfilling the wishes of my apprentice. Naruto is not blind. He can see something is wrong with her, and he asked if I could help, and that is what I plan to do. Well, Sarutobi-kun, I must be going. Naruto-kun should be out of the academy by now and will be waiting for me to teach him about his new cards. Have a nice day, Sarutobi-kun. Teresa stood up and walked out of the office, leaving Sarutobi to think. He thought of Anko like an adoptive daughter, especially after Orochimaru betrayed her, and to hear that she could be free of him made him happy, but he wondered what Anko would think. There was only one way to find out. Making a discreet hand signal, an Anbu operative appeared in front of him. Get me Mitarashi Anko, we have much to discuss. Anko was enjoying her day off immensely. She just recently got done with an A- rank mission and was given a day off due to how long her mission had been. She was happily munching on some dango, the food of the gods, when she felt a presence behind her. She could tell it was an Anbu, as no one else had seemingly noticed the presence. Yes? What is it? Sumimasen Mitarashi-san, the Hokage wishes to speak with you. He said it is important, don't worry, it's not a mission. That allowed Anko to relax slightly. Most of the time when the Hokage called for her for something important, it was to give her a mission he needed completed immediately. Thanks, Anbu-san, tell him I'll be there as soon as possible. She felt the Anbu vanish and finished her dango. Grumpy she couldn't have at least 3 servings. She placed her payment down and got up to stretch before using Shunshin to vanish in a swirl of leaves. Sarutobi sat in his office taking occasional puffs on his pipe while waiting for Anko to show up. Many thoughts were going through his mind, and he wondered how Anko would take this, to hear she could be free of Orochimaru's soul in the cursed seal. While the seal itself could not be removed without the complete destruction of Orochimaru, he was glad to hear Teresa would remove the fragment of his former student's soul that resided in the seal and made Anko's life miserable. He could hear someone knock on the door and knew who it was. Speaking of Anko, enter. He smiled when he saw Anko come in. Happy she was off, but unhappy he called her in. She probably thought he was gonna send her on a mission again. Relax, Anko-chan, you're off today, so no missions. I actually wanted to talk to you. He saw the girl visibly relax and sat down waiting for him to start. Anko, are you still interested in being a Jonin sensei? Anko gave him an, are you serious? Look, and her surprise was evident when she spoke. Hokage-sama, are you serious? But what about the council? Sarutobi smiled. This was his village to run, and he would remind the council of that after this. Don't worry about them, Anko-chan. Now I take it by your reaction you still wish to become one? Not trusting her voice, Anko only nodded, making the Hokage smiled. He remembered the sad look on her face when Kurenai told her she was to be a Jonin sensei, while Anko couldn't due to the problems the curse seal gave her. But Hokage-sama, what about the... That is actually why I called you in here, Anko-chan. I have an associate who is willing to help you with that. She can't remove the seal, but she can remove the fragment of Orochimaru's soul that is in the seal, allowing you to be free of him. She wants to know if you would be interested in having this procedure done tomorrow? Anko again didn't trust her voice and nodded, tears forming in her eyes. To hear she would be free of him was a godsend. But she wanted to know what the catch was. What's the catch? The old Hokage chuckled. Anko had always been a sharp one, he'd give her that. Surprisingly, no catch. While she would like you to take her student as your apprentice, she said even if you said no to being his Jonin mentor, she'd remove the soul fragment as her student asked her to do it for him. Who is her student? Uzumaki Naruto, I'm sure you know who he is. Anko nodded. Everyone around a certain age knew who he was, the container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. While most wouldn't say it aloud he was cute, if a little strange he just got a bad representative due to his burden. Why did he ask her to do this? Anko was confused. As far as she knew she had never actually met the Kyuubi container before, so why would he ask his teacher to go out of her way and help her? Well, Naruto, as well as being the container of the demon fox, is also learning from his mentor to be a seer, and you have shown up a lot in his readings. When he learned who you were he wanted to learn more about you, and he could see you were in a lot of pain. So he asked his mentor to see if she could help you. Naruto is a kind boy that doesn't like to see others suffer, and to know someone who according to his readings would be close to both me and him is suffering is something he will not stand for. Plus I believe Naruto-kun has a crush on you, as according to Iruka he has called you beautiful on more than one occasion. Anko almost began to cry again but held her tears in. This kid who hadn't even met her and barely knew her was willing to do all this for her, and all because he didn't want to see her suffer. Not because he had to or wanted to gain anything by doing so, but just because of his kindness was why he wanted his mentor to help her. Plus the Gaki obviously had good taste in women if he found her beautiful and had a crush on her. So Anko-chan, would you be willing to be Naruto-kun's Jonin-sensei? Naruto's teacher Teresa personally recommended you, and it's something you've wanted to do. Hi, I'll do it. Besides, if this works and she can remove his influence from me, I'll have to thank the Gaki. She said with a smile. Very good, I'll draw up the paperwork to make you promoted to full Jonin. Be here tomorrow at noon so we can begin. Anko nodded, her smile as big as ever. This day had just gotten better. Mind if I ask a question, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi motioned with his hand for her to speak. Naruto's teacher, Teresa, I believe you said her name was. Is she that strangely clothed blind woman I see around the village? Sarutobi nodded while taking a puff of his pipe. Yes, that's her. Teresa, while being blind, is very powerful and can see things others can't. She claims it is because of her seer abilities she gained when she lost her eyesight as a child. I've asked her to settle down in the village, but she refuses, as her people are nomadic and the trips around the elemental nations she regularly takes help her provide Naruto with the necessary tools for his seer abilities. Does that answer your question, Anko-chan? Anko nodded, but she wasn't done asking questions yet. Well, if I'm training the Gaki, anything I should know about his level? From what I heard, he failed the academy exams twice, and his third time his scores weren't so high. The Hokage began laughing, which confused her. Had she missed something? Naruto did that to protect himself. He feared if he ended up being another Itachi, then the villagers or council would do something rash against him for fear of him becoming too powerful. So he failed the first two exams and did poorly on his third exam to make everyone think he was poor ninja. Honestly, Naruto could give a Chunin, maybe even a Jonin, a run for their money, since they would immediately underestimate him. I have seen Naruto's special cards, and some of them could easily be considered S-rank kinjutsu with what they do. The Hokage took a puff of his pipe before continuing. That, coupled with Naruto's seer abilities, make him very dangerous for those who think lightly of him. But he has no experience, which is why a seasoned Chunin or Jonin would win. Once they figure out Naruto's abilities, it would only be a matter of time before they find a way to win. That is where you come in. As his Jonin sensei, it is your job to give him the experience he needs. He still has a dream of being Hokage, and I plan to see him take this hat from me. He said with a smile showing he meant every word. Anko was stunned. This kid was apparently another prodigy like Itachi, but chose to remain safe by hiding his abilities and intelligence. Well, that would not do. Not for someone who was soon to be her student. I think I'm gonna like this kid. So it'll be just me and him? Or am I dealing with three brats? No, just you and him, though at times I will require you to join other teams for higher rank missions, at least until Naruto is Chunin rank. That sound fair, Anko-chan? Anko nodded. While she hated D-rank missions, she knew the Gaki would have to do a certain amount to qualify for the Chunin exams. Plus she could get to know him, teach him a few jutsus, and work on his chakra control. Well, Anko-chan, I will not keep you. Go enjoy the rest of your day off. Remember, meet back here tomorrow at noon so we can fix that seal. Dismissed. Anko gave him a salute with a smile he had rarely seen on the snake mistress since the fiasco with Orochimaru, and was glad she was happy. He watched as she left and opened his desk drawer, pulling out an orange book. As he opened the book and began reading, perverted giggling filled the room. Naruto-kun, I think we should get you some new clothes. What's wrong with what I'm wearing now, Ba-chan? Teresa sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. Whenever this topic would come up, Naruto would put up such a fight that half the time she would drop the subject just to end the fight. He never put up this much of a fight when she told him he had to eat healthy and cut back on the ramen. Which he did eat healthy. Iruka just cheated by buying him ramen every once in a while. Naruto-kun, a bright orange jumpsuit is not befitting of a seer, or a ninja. I think something with a little less orange would look a lot better and would make people take you more seriously. Plus if you do this, I'll teach you how to make cards and teach you to use your seer powers. She hoped this would work. According to the Hokage, Naruto would do just about anything to learn new things, but when she told him of her plan to make the boy change his outfit, the Hokage wondered if it would actually work. Really, Ba-chan? Teresa looked at the jumpsuit he wore and saw all the burn holes, patch-ups, and such that covered it and decided yes, he was ready to learn. Anything to get him out of that jumpsuit and into something more suitable. Yes, Naruto-kun. I'll start you with something simple to create, such as the blade, and if you can create that, then I'll teach you the much harder cards. It'll be a while before you can create certain cards, but I know you don't give up, so you'll be fine. Naruto thought about it and decided he would change. He had already decided not to live in fear and would show his true abilities, so why not change his look to match his new outlook? Okay, but can I have at least a little orange? Again, Teresa pinched the bridge of her nose in annoyance. What was with this child and orange? Naruto-kun, no orange. She whined and Naruto put his hands together in a pleading gesture and got on his knees. Please, Ba-chan, just a little? Teresa looked at the boy and, like so many times before, saw her little brother and little sparrow. The little brother who had forgotten to buy her a present on her birthday so many times when they were kids, before she lost her sight, and the boy who lost his sister to a madman. Both of them shared much alike with Naruto. Teresa gave a sigh and realized she could never say no to Naruto, as much as she tried. Fine, but only a little. Why can't I say no to you? She said aloud, and Naruto smiled when he heard that. Because you care for me, Ba-chan. The old woman merely smiled at him, her milk-white eyes seemingly staring into his as she messed up his hair lightly. That I do, little one. Now come, let us get you a new outfit. I believe it is time we visit your crush Tenten. She smirked when she heard Naruto get tongue-tied at hearing he was going to see his academy friend. It was cute to tease Naruto on his crush on the snake mistress and weapon mistress. Ba-chan, I sometimes wonder if you like teasing me, he said, stepping in line with her. Teresa's smile never left her face. Sometimes, Naruto-kun, I must admit you are easy. The two walked until they came to the 10 Points weapons shop, which was owned by Tenten's family. Naruto saw his friend at the counter, bored and reading a weapons magazine. Hey Ten-chan. Tenten knew only two people could get away with calling her that. Her teammate Rock Lee and Naruto. Seeing as there was no screaming about flames of youth, she figured it was Naruto. Hey Naruto-kun, long time no see. I see you finally graduated. Naruto smiled and flicked his Hite plate. Yeah, it has been a while. Teresa placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto, I shall gather you some clothes, and yes, I will make sure there is a little orange. Naruto walked over to the counter and noticed Tenten put away her magazine. So how's my favorite fortune teller been? Naruto blushed at being called her favorite. Been good, I get my team assignment in 2 days. How's your fortune telling been coming along? Tenten blushed, figuring he forgot about that. Most people didn't know it about her, but her favorite hobby was telling fortunes, though she had to admit Naruto was better at it than her. He still bought her a deck of tarot cards to use since he figured they were the only ones besides Teresa who did it. They weren't special ones like his, but they were nice nonetheless. That's good to hear. I hope you get a good team in Sensei like I did. I've been practicing, but I'm probably nowhere near your level, Mr. Seer. Naruto blushed and scratched the back of his head in embarrassment, then he remembered something. Oh, I got a gift for you, Ten-chan. She perked up at hearing this. It was a small pack of cards. Her eyes widened, hoping these were the special cards Naruto used. She had seen him use them once and she loved them. She tore open the pack and squealed with delight as she looked through the cards. No single cards, but she was happy with them nonetheless. A pack of 20 awesome cards. She saw some of them would allow her to use ninjutsu, which made her smile since that wasn't her strong suit. She reached over the counter and pulled Naruto towards her to give him a kiss on the cheek, making him blush like a tomato and become dizzy from the excitement of getting his first kiss from a girl. It wasn't a kiss on the lips, but it was still a kiss as far as he was concerned. Thank you Naruto-kun. She giggled as he spun in place, a goofy grin on his face. No problem, Ten-chan. Naruto-kun, I have the clothes ready for you to try now. He looked and saw a pile of clothes in Teresa's hands, mostly black but he could see some orange which made him happy. Thank Ba-chan. Go try them on, I want to see how you look. She watched as he ran into the changing room and she leaned against the counter smiling as she watched the weapons mistress look at each of the cards with rapt attention, her smile growing ever wider as she pulled out a list of the cards, what they did, and more importantly how to use them. I'm glad you like them Tenten. Naruto-kun picked each of those cards out for you. Tenten blushed which made the old seer smile. Naruto came out and she was pleased with her choice of clothes. Wow Naruto-kun, looking good. Tenten said blushing as the young man looked much more handsome in this new outfit than the jumpsuit. Naruto had to admit, when he first saw what Teresa had picked out for him he was a bit skeptical but once he put it on and tied the orange sash around his waist he had to admit Ba-chan knew her stuff. He wore black pants that widened at the bottom and a black short-sleeve battle kimono top with an orange sash tied around his waist. On his hands were fingerless gloves that went past his wrist and he switched out his blue sandals for black ones. A simple outfit but he had to admit it did look awesome. I must say you know your stuff Ba-chan. This battle kimono is awesome looking. Teresa merely nodded with a smile. An outfit truly worthy of a shinobi seer. Also Naruto-kun we'll come back here to pick up your seer weapon. I have already placed the order with Tenten earlier this week so we'll be back later in the week to pick it up. Also Tenten I'll need a few more of those outfits since those were your last ones in that size. Tenten nodded, it would be expensive to get everything Teresa wanted but the old blind woman assured her expense would be no problem. Now Naruto-kun, let's go start you out on your seer training and card making. It has been a pleasure Tenten. Always good to see you and Naruto-kun Teresa-san. I'll see you later this week to pick up Naruto's weapon. Thanks for the cards Naruto-kun. Naruto blushed as he waved goodbye to his weapon-loving friend. All in all today was turning out to be a good day. The next day turned out to be more frustrating. Naruto focused himself and tried to unlock what Teresa had dubbed his seer mode, a higher state of being similar to the sage mode of the Sannin Jiraiya but with no luck. He felt sad at finding out he couldn't do it for some reason but was glad he at least able to make cards. Even if they were underpowered compared to Ba-chan's. Teresa as if reading his mind spoke up. Patience Naruto-kun. Card making gets better over time and most seers unlock their seer mode when their situation calls for it so do not worry. You just haven't found a situation where you need it yet. Teresa sat cross-legged on a nearby crate and sipped at her tea watching her young apprentice focus himself to try and trigger the transformation. Sadly he couldn't pull it off which didn't surprise her. Most seers activated their first time due to a life or death situation and while she was dedicated to helping Naruto progress she cared too much about him to put him in that kind of situation herself. Teresa looked up and realized it would be soon time for her to go meet with Anko and the Hokage. Naruto-kun, it is almost time for my meeting with the Hokage. Would you like to come with me? Anko-chan will be there. Naruto blushed and Teresa could only smile at his innocence as he nodded. Come then Naruto-kun. To say Naruto was anxious to see Anko was an understatement. While Naruto was anxious Anko was downright nervous waiting for the blind woman to arrive and fix her problem. To be told she could be free of Orochimaru's constant influence was the greatest news to her, especially after being told the seal could not be removed unless Orochimaru was completely destroyed which seemed unlikely due to her former master's habit of being seemingly invincible. Anko waited with bated breath as she heard the door to the office open. The first one in was Naruto, the blonde-haired Kyuubi container. He was cute she wouldn't lie and the look of happiness he had on his face seemed contagious making her smile. She watched as he walked up to her and bowed. He seemed to have manners but when he spoke it seemed like he didn't. Hello Anko-chan, nice to finally meet you up close. You're a lot prettier up close in person than far away in Area 44. Anko blushed. Kid was a charmer she'd give him that. With his kind smile and the way he knew just what to say to make a person happy he'd be a lady killer when he grew up. Nice to meet you too Gaki, glad to see you ditched the jumpsuit that I could see from the middle of the forest. She said ruffling his hair. Hey, Naruto exclaimed loudly. Why did everyone hate on his jumpsuit? He honestly didn't see a problem with it. Orange was an awesome color in his opinion. You look good, Gaki. The battle kimono makes you look handsome, like a young Yondaime. Naruto blushed at being compared to his idol, especially when a beautiful woman like Anko was doing the comparison. Thank you. Teresa came up and placed a hand on his shoulder, a soft smile on her face. Now Naruto, I know you'd like to get to know Anko more, but first I need to help her with her problem, okay? Naruto nodded and pulled out a playing card and gave it to Anko. She flipped it over and saw it was a Joker card with what appeared to be a chibi version of the Jiraiya the Toad Sage on it, giving a thumbs up. She looked up at Naruto and had a confused look on her face. For good luck, he said with a wink that nearly made Anko blush. The kid definitely was a charmer and would be a fine catch for any girl. Bitch will have to go through me first. Where did that come from? Anko thought. She had never had thoughts like that before about anyone, which confused her. She shook it off and ruffled his hair again. Thank Gaki, I'll keep it always. She put the card away in the inner breast pocket of her trench coat and looked up at Teresa. Okay, so how do we do this? Teresa nodded and stood behind Anko. It is quite simple, my dear. Show me the seal and I will do the rest. Naruto, I want you to watch. This is part of your training as a soul seer, understood? Naruto nodded and sat in the chair opposite of Anko. Teresa-san, do you mind if I watch as well? I must admit I am curious as to how a soul seer works myself. Sarutobi said, stroking his beard. His hat was off and Naruto snatched it up and placed it on his head, making the old Hokage smile. Teresa chuckled at the old man's thirst for knowledge. My Sarutobi-kun, you truly are the professor, never wanting to stop learning. Sarutobi could only smile at her as she looked down and noticed Anko had removed her jacket, making Naruto blush, as all she had on now was her mesh top, which didn't leave much to Naruto's puberty-laden imagination. Anko smiled, seeing Naruto blushing like a tomato at seeing her body not being covered by the trench coat. Oh yeah, I'm keeping him. Sorry ladies. Again, where do these thoughts keep coming from? Now Anko, I want you to relax. If you fall unconscious, then I probably did it to protect you and lessen any pain. I won't lie, this will hurt, as I will be forcing Orochimaru's soul out of the seal. Are you ready? Anko simply nodded. Truthfully, she didn't know what to be ready for, but at this point she didn't care. Teresa placed both hands over the curse seal and her eyes began glowing white. Naruto noticed Anko's eyes seemed to be drooping until she finally passed out. He scooted closer so he could better see what his mentor was doing, and so he could be closer to Anko. Meanwhile, Teresa had just entered the part of Anko's soul that contained the curse seal. She slowly looked around, searching for the soul that didn't belong. Well, now, what do we have here? From out of the shadows Orochimaru stepped forth, his left hand under his chin while his right held onto his left elbow. Teresa, with her seer mode, could see all of the souls inhabiting Orochimaru's. Dozens of souls that would never see peace or their loved ones again. She would not stand for this. Orochimaru, I presume? You carry dozens of lost souls within you. As a soul seer, it is my duty to see them free as well as remove you from Anko. Orochimaru chuckled at hearing this. Yet another fool who thought they could defeat him, and like so many before her, she would fall. A soul seer? I thought you were just legends. Interesting. I believe it is time for an experiment. Orochimaru opened his mouth and a long snake emerged from it, also opening its mouth. From within the snake's mouth the handle of a sword appeared. Teresa watched in disgust as the snake Sanin drew the sword and charged her, obviously thinking the blind woman was no threat to him. It was a mistake many before him had made. Deftly she dodged the swing of his sword and slammed her palm into his stomach, causing a white glowing orb to rocket out of his back and float around. The sudden force of the blow caused the air to be knocked from his lungs. He turned around and could see the old seer walk up to the glowing orb and speak to it as if it were a small child before holding it in her hand. Orochimaru's eyebrow rose in curiosity as he watched her squeeze the soul, which erupted into a large serrated scythe, intriguing the white snake greatly. Another chuckle came from him. Such an interesting ability. No doubt that orb was one of the souls in my body. Very well, let us continue the experiment. Before he could react, a large orb of fire erupted from the woman's hands towards him. As he dodged the ball of flame, he noticed she was behind him, the large scythe crashing down upon him. With his amazing reflexes, Orochimaru dodged the blade only to notice her blink out of existence and appear behind him once more. Before he could react, she slammed the shaft of the scythe into his body 3 times in rapid succession, causing 3 more orbs to fly out. Orochimaru could feel himself getting weaker. All 3 soul orbs floated over to Teresa and she decided no more games. She released the scythe soul and watched it join the others floating about her. "Blades," was all she said, and Orochimaru watched in surprise as the 4 souls transformed into katanas and rocketed towards him, following his every move and dodge like they were sentient. Teresa's hands became covered with a gray aura and she slammed both hands down on the ground, watching as the gray aura moved from her hands to cover the area they were in. Area time control. She smiled as Orochimaru slowed down once he was covered by the gray aura, but the soul blades did not, piercing him and pinning him to the wall like a living voodoo doll. For the first time in a long time, Orochimaru was afraid. The abilities this woman was using was unheard of, but once this soul made it back to the original body, he would study up. The smile that came across her face made him worry. "You will not be going back to your original body, I will make sure of that. You will be sealed now just like you will be later, though this sealing will be by my hands. Anko will not be under your control." Orochimaru watched as she raised her right hand and extended her fingers out before ramming her hand into his heart, making him scream out in pain. "Be sealed, serpent, and rest assured that this won't be last time this happens to you." A large symbol appeared on Orochimaru's forehead as his scream died down, the blades leaving his body pinned. As she walked away from his now sealed soul, Teresa spoke aloud her thoughts. "Only when Itachi does it, it will be truly permanent." With that, she faded from Anko's soul. In the physical world, Teresa moved one of her hands to grab what looked like a blank card and placed it over the curse seal as it began glowing a golden color. The glowing seemed to be absorbed by the card until finally Teresa pulled the card away and her eyes went back to their normal milky white. She quickly sat down, breathing in and out as if she just ran several miles. "It is done, here Sarutobi-kun. Keep this card and destroy it when the time is right." The look he gave her was one of confusion, but she gave him a soft smile. "It will be needed later, since Anko is no longer under his thumb. He will eventually show up to find out why, it is in his nature." Sarutobi only nodded and put the card away in his desk. He watched as Naruto held up a water skin to Teresa for her to take, but she waved it off. "No thank you, Naruto-kun, I am fine, just tired." "Thank you though." She watched as his attention turned to the snake mistress, who was now waking up. What happened?" The next 4 words out of Teresa's mouth made Anko freeze in place and lose her voice for a few moments. "You are free, Anko." It took Anko a few seconds to get her voice back. "I am? He's gone now?" Naruto decided to answer for his mentor since she needed rest. "Yup, Ba-chan sealed his soul into a card which we can use against him later. You're free, Anko-chan." Anko grabbed the blonde-haired boy and swung him around several times, the whole time screaming in happiness. She crushed his body to hers, all the while repeating "thank you" over and over. While Naruto may not have been the one to free her, he had been the one to ask for her to be helped. Naruto noticed the curse seal and slightly poked it, causing Anko to moan in pleasure and nearly drop him. "Yes, it will be quite sensitive from now on, I'm afraid, so try not to touch it too much." Anko blushed at hearing this and realized who she was hugging. She placed him down and acted like nothing happened, though the smile on both Teresa and the Hokage's faces said otherwise. "Now Anko-chan, since the hard part is out of the way, I need you to sign this." Anko was so happy she didn't care and signed the paper, though not before giving it a quick once-over. "Congratulations, Anko-chan, you are a full Jonin now. You and Naruto will be Special Team 1, otherwise known as Squad 11. Anko had a huge smile on her face while Naruto was still blushing from making Anko moan, though he had a slight smile. "Now for your first assignment. It has come to my attention we have a traitor in our village. The information on the traitor's activities are outlined in these folders. Memorize them, then destroy them. Now hop to it, you two. Use whatever means necessary to help find and capture this traitor." Both Anko and Naruto saluted the Hokage, but the huge shit-eating grins on their faces said they were enjoying it. "Naruto-kun, before you and Anko-chan go, I would like to speak to you about something very important. The Hokage knows what I am talking about." Teresa's soft smile had left her face. As much as she said he needed to know about his burden, it didn't make telling him easier. The Hokage shook his head, knowing that he agreed to let Teresa tell him. "I still don't like that we're telling him, but he does need to know." Naruto was confused as he listened to what the old man and Teresa said. Anko put a hand on his shoulder and squeezed. She had a feeling she knew what they were talking about and her student was going to need her support through this. Tell me what? What do I need to know? Gigi? Ba-chan? What's going on? The aged Hokage laced his hands together and for the first time ever Naruto saw a serious look on the old man's face. Naruto felt his gut clench as he became nervous about what they were going to tell him. Naruto, we've decided to tell you the reason why everyone treats you so bad. It is with a heavy heart I tell you this as I wish you could be spared from knowing but eventually you were bound to find out or something would have happened that would clue you in. Why everyone treats me so bad. Anko squeezed his shoulder and her smile from earlier dropped. This was not easy for any of them. Naruto-kun, do you remember the story of the Kyuubi attack? Naruto just nodded, not liking where this was going. Naruto, the truth about that awful night is the Yondaime could not defeat the Kyuubi and he told me in secret he feared it was being controlled so the Yondaime came up with a plan to stop it. Naruto feared what the answer to his question was going to be but he decided to ask anyway, knowing it was inevitable. What was his plan? Both Teresa and Sarutobi sighed knowing this would be the hardest thing they would probably ever do. The Yondaime came up with a plan to seal the fox away so it could never escape. He sealed the fox in you Naruto at the cost of his own life. Sealed? In me? Naruto looked down at his body to see if anything gave away the fact the demon was sealed in him. Nothing clued him in. Sarutobi could see the look on the young man's face and sighed knowing this was not something you tell a person. Naruto, I am sorry you had to find out about this. I made sure no one of your generation knew about it to allow you the chance to have friends of your own age. Naruto's head was down, his eyes glued to the floor. None of them could see his face as his hands clenched into fists and shook. You kept this from me. What else? What do you mean, Naru? What else have you kept from me? The sheer volume of Naruto's scream made all three jump in surprise. Naruto's voice then became soft and the three adults in the room had to strain to hear him. What else has been kept from me? Do you know who my parents are? Why they left me alone? Did they even love me? Tell me, I have a right to know, tell me. The Hokage sighed as Naruto was right, he did have a right to know what was being kept from him. This Naruto in front of him was the boy who had hidden all of his pain away and now was letting it out as he watched tears stream down his cheeks saddening the old man. I'll tell you Naruto, I did know you parents. I can't tell you who they are yet as I promised your father I wouldn't until you became Jonin. Both of your parents were very powerful and had many enemies both inside and outside of the village so they wanted to make sure you could defend yourself before I told you. Both of your parents loved you very much Naruto, your mother died giving birth to you and your father died fighting the Kyuubi. I'm sorry Naruto, I'm sorry I kept this from you but I had good reasons for keeping these things from you. Naruto had stopped shaking in anger and his look changed to one of both sorrow and joy. He has learned his parents did love him, while he wouldn't know who they really were until he became a Jonin he was happy he was wanted. Though if he ever got the chance he would punch the Yondaime right in the gut for what he did. Naruto, again I'm sorry. I promise you as soon as you make Jonin I will reveal everything about them to you. Can you forgive an old man for his foolish mistake? Naruto looked at the Sandaime Hokage and a small smile appeared on his face. He could forgive him, but he wouldn't yet. He felt betrayed by the one of two people he trusted. I can Gigi. I'm still hurt by this and it will be a while before I fully forgive you for keeping this from me but I can and will forgive you, but I won't forget this. The Hokage knew that this was the best he was going to get but he was glad Naruto had forgiven him. Thank you Naruto. Naruto felt a hand on his head and looked up to see Anko smiling at him. Come on Gaki, I'll treat you to ramen, that should cheer you up. Naruto smiled at her and wiped any remaining tears from his eyes with his sleeve. Thanks Anko-sensei. She ruffled his hair and her smile became a grin. No problem Gaki, though easy on the sensei suffix K? I'm still getting used to that. Teresa watched with a smile as the strange duo of sensei and student walked out of the office. Teresa was the first to speak. Well that could have gone much worse. He took it better than I thought. Sarutobi nodded in agreement. Do you think him and Anko will be a good match? The blind woman merely nodded. They will help each other. Both have experienced great pain and will help each other heal their wounds. They are very much alike in many ways. Sarutobi smiled. The two were in fact alike both personality-wise and their histories. That they are. Naruto sat at Ichiraku's alone after Anko and Tenten decided to head to bed. Naruto had only eaten about 4 bowls while Anko had 2 and both got to know each other. He did notice his sensei acted weird when Tenten showed up and then both girls acted weird towards each other. "Hey Naruto-kun." Tenten plopped onto a stool next to Naruto who was busy eating. "Hey Ten-chan, what's up?" Tenten smiled at him and ordered a bowl before answering. "Not much, just got done training with my team." "Oh, speaking of teams, Ten-chan, this is my Jonin-sensei Mitarashi Anko." "Anko-sensei, this is my friend Tenten." Both girls got off of their stools and in a few seconds a battle was fought between them with no victor. "Nice to meet you Anko-san, I'm Tenten. I think I've seen you around my family's shop before." "Back off bitch, Naruto-kun is mine." She smiled a sweet smile at the older Jonin, the unspoken thought being conveyed as she shook Anko's extended hand. "Likewise Tenten, I'm Anko, Naruto's Jonin-sensei. So how do you know my Gaki?" she said also with sweet smile, though the emphasis on the my part of the question didn't go unnoticed by Tenten. "Don't fuck with my Gaki panda girl. He doesn't need that." Both girls sat back down on the stools as Tenten's order was brought out. "Naruto-kun and I went to the academy together last year. We've been friends ever since." "Ha bitch, I got seniority on you. Naruto-kun has known me longer." "That's nice, you're one of Guy's students correct? I think we'll probably team up with you guys once in a while. Other than that Naruto and I will be doing a lot of missions together." "Sorry little girl, but Naruto will be with me majority of the time so you can't do anything to him." Tenten finished her ramen and looked at the older Jonin who seemingly had a protective claim on her friend. She had a point, her and Naruto would be around each other a lot more than she would, but she hoped her seniority would carry some weight. "Yeah, Guy is my sensei. You guys should come train with us once in a while if you're not busy." "Take that. Naruto-kun will want to train with us so he'll spend time with me too." Naruto was about to say something before Anko cut him off. "Maybe we will if we're not busy. I see what you're trying bun girl and it won't work. Well I gotta go, see you later Naruto-kun." Naruto blushed as he said goodbye and Anko glared at Tenten's backside which confused her. Why was she acting like this around him? She never was like this around anyone else, so why only around Naruto? She decided she would ask the Hokage about this tomorrow. If anyone could explain it, he could. "Alright Gaki, I'm tired and gonna head to bed. Don't stay out too late okay? Meet me at training ground 44 at 10 tomorrow morning." She ruffled his hair and gave him a hug which made him freeze and blush. Naruto wasn't really used to human contact like that and didn't know what to do. Anko could see his confused look and smiled, he certainly looked cute like that. "Later Gaki, don't be late." He was happy his sensei and best friend were getting along, but he couldn't help but feel like he was more involved in the conversation somehow. As he was about to leave he felt a hand on his shoulder. "Hey Naruto, how have you been?" Mizuki sat down next to him and Naruto was confused, he couldn't remember Mizuki being this nice to him, ever. As much as Naruto tried to read his face, Mizuki seemed genuinely happy to see him. That sent up a red flag in the back of Naruto's mind. "Hey Mizuki-sensei, what's up?" "I've been good, I got my Jonin-sensei today." "Already? You're not supposed to meet with your sensei until tomorrow Naruto. It was something the Hokage came up with at the last minute." Mizuki nodded, it didn't seem like he could get Naruto to steal the scroll for him as he couldn't find a reason to use. It looked like he was going to have to do it himself. "Well I gotta go Naruto, gotta get work done for the next year's class." "Good luck with your sensei and team." Naruto watched as the Chunin teacher left and shrugged. He thought he had a strange feeling but he guessed it was nothing. Naruto pulled out his money, paid his bill, and left wondering what he would eat tomorrow. Pork and miso ramen was sounding good. As he lay there on his bed Naruto couldn't sleep, his thoughts were filled with the parents he never knew. He wondered how different his life would be if the fox never attacked, what lullabies his mother would sing to him as he slept, what jutsus his father would teach him, being carried on his father's shoulders, holding his parents' hands as they went to festivals. He wanted it all and due to the creature sealed within him, he would never have it. 13 years he went without it and at that moment he decided that if he had kids they would never have to go through what he did. As he was about to wonder about Tenten's and Anko's strange behavior towards each other he noticed a figure rush by on the rooftop across from his apartment. The figure looked like him in the moonlight and appeared to be carrying a large scroll across his back. Who the hell was that? Naruto got up and opened the window, following after his doppelganger, intent on finding out what was going on. Mizuki couldn't believe how easy this had been. All he had to do was henge himself to look like the Kyuubi brat and steal the scroll to place the blame, and soon he would be home free. Little did Mizuki know that his henge had two tiny flaws that only someone like the Hokage, who spent a great deal of time around Naruto, would know about. His thigh holster was on the wrong leg, and he called the Hokage Hokage-sama, something Naruto would never do as he saw the old man too much like family. Said Hokage was meeting with a group of Chunins, a few Jonins, and two Anbu that knew Naruto personally from their time guarding him as a child. This impostor had to be caught before he escaped with the forbidden scroll and possibly hurt Naruto. "We have a traitor in our midst. He has disguised himself as Naruto with his thigh holster on his left leg and stolen the forbidden scroll. Find him. If you find the real Naruto, let him know about the situation. Now go." In a large explosion of smoke, all ninja except for the old Hokage vanished. Now to check the viewing orb and see where the real Naruto is. I hope he is okay. Naruto was more than okay. Currently he was in the forest battling with his doppelganger, avoiding every attack he could throw. Naruto simply attributed this to his opponent being angry at both being discovered and not being able to hit the blonde container. As the copycat swung a fist at him, Naruto dropped down and sent his foot upward into his opponent's jaw, remembering how he saw that weird Jonin guy do it to what turned out to be a clone of Kakashi. Needless to say, the henge was dropped as Naruto's opponent went flying. Naruto couldn't believe his eyes. Mizuki was the one who was masquerading as him and stole what looked to be an important scroll. Well, that made Naruto and Anko's mission of finding the traitor easy. "Mizuki, give up and surrender what you've stolen." Naruto got into his stance as he heard Mizuki laughing. "You think I'm just gonna give up to a little brat like you? You want to know a little secret? Something no one is supposed to tell you?" Mizuki took Naruto's silence as a yes. "You're the demon fox that destroyed the village 12 years ago. The Yondaime sealed the beast into you. That's why everyone hates you." Naruto's head dropped down and Mizuki took this as a chance to grab the large shuriken on his back. Mizuki was surprised when 4-card shuriken flew at him at high speed, followed by Naruto's laughter. "Man, you're an idiot. You think I don't know about the fox? Oh boo-hoo, I got the big bad fox sealed away in me. Well, that just means I'll have to show everyone I'm not that stupid fox." Mizuki dodged several cards and threw one of his shuriken, only to have it blocked by a lone kunai from another direction. "Gaki, you're always getting into trouble, aren't you?" Iruka landed in the clearing along with Anko, both ready to fight the traitor. "Anko-sensei, Iruka-sensei. Glad to see you guys, but I had everything under control." Mizuki didn't like the Kyuubi brat talking about him like he wasn't a threat. He was a Chunin, damn it, and this little punk was a fresh out of Academy genin. The silver-haired shinobi pulled out the vial given to him earlier in the week and threw his last shuriken at the trio. "You little brat. How dare you talk about me like I'm some sort of weakling? Let's see how tough you are after this." Mizuki popped the top off of the vial and chugged it shortly after, clutching his gut in pain as his skin began to bubble. The three of them watched as the former instructor's body began to transform and take on an animal-like form. Anko immediately knew what this was and warned his partners. "Guys, be careful, this is a weaker version of the cursed seal. It's not as powerful as mine, but with Mizuki's level of training he will be dangerous." Mizuki stood up and cracked his neck, looking at his new tiger-like body before charging them. Thankfully his body was significantly heavier now, making dodging his striped fist easy. Anko turned her attention to her student and could see him fingering through his cards, obviously looking for one that could stop the transformed Mizuki. "Gaki, if you got something that can end this fight, I suggest you use it quick." "No problem, sensei." Naruto pulled a card out of his deck holster and smiled at his choice. "What are you planning, Naruto?" Iruka asked before having to dodge another attack. The academy instructor was glad Mizuki's tiger transformation made him slow, otherwise he'd be seriously injured from the punches that were leaving small craters in the earth. Iruka managed to slip under Mizuki's guard and cut the rope holding the sealed scroll to his back and kicked it away from the two. "Anko-sensei, do we need this guy alive?" Anko looked at Mizuki and thought no, she knew who he was working for the moment he ingested that vial. Whatever Naruto was planning she'd allow. "No, Gaki, why do you ask?" Naruto didn't answer. He merely held the card in between his fingers in front of his face and uttered the card's name. The grave. The card, which had a picture of a graveyard with the moon overlooking it, vanished from the card face. Mizuki had almost caught Iruka in his grasp when he felt something grabbing his leg. He looked down and saw a rotten arm gripping his right ankle, followed by another arm grabbing another part of his right leg. As Mizuki tried to pull his leg out of the corpse's grasp, he ended up pulling the body further out of the ground, shocking him as the face of Kanojo, one of his former teammates he killed, stared up at him. The single eye he had left staring accusingly at him. What the hell, Kanojo? You're dead. Mizuki felt another pair of hands grab his left foot, and he could see Karen, his female teammate, grabbing him, followed by his lover Tsubaki, his parents, and several other people he once knew. All began to grab at him and pull him down, making his large body sink into the ground slowly. Iruka and Anko watched in awe as Mizuki struggled and screamed at his assailants to let go of him and to get away, though they couldn't see whatever Naruto was having attack him. Both were stunned as Mizuki screamed in fear as he sank further down into the ground. In Mizuki's eyes, hundreds of zombies, all of people he knew during his childhood and had killed as a ninja, were climbing over each other to grab him and pull him down into the ground. Their half-rotten faces staring at him while their dirt-covered, worm-infested hands reached out to grab a hold of him. The transformed instructor looked up at Iruka and Anko and extended a hand out to them, a look of terror on his face. The only part of him not in the ground was his shoulders, the single arm extended out in his head. Please, Iruka, help me. Get them off of me. Please God, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Get away from me. Those were the last words Mizuki spoke as the undead fully dragged him under the ground. Naruto, Iruka, and Anko all watching as his hands slowly sink into the ground, looks of amazement as the earth sealed itself up and they heard a muffled scream from underneath the dirt. Both Iruka and Anko looked at Naruto, who simply placed the card back in his holster and looked at them with a curious expression. What? Gaki, what the hell was that? Anko wanted to know. She couldn't see what was attacking Mizuki, but it had to be horrifying to put that look of sheer terror on his face as he sank into the ground. Yeah, Naruto, what did you do to him? Oh, that was a card of mine called the Grave. It creates an illusion that everyone you know and or killed comes out of the ground as zombies to pull you under the ground with them. If you don't dispel the illusion, you get trapped under the earth, where the illusion makes you think the zombies are eating you. Now if you'll excuse me. Naruto walked over to a tree and proceeded to throw up, knowing that he just buried alive his former co-instructor. Anko smiled, noticing that her Gaki was taking his first kill quite well, even if he didn't physically do anything. Iruka, on the other hand, went over to Naruto and gave him some comforting words. The Hokage watched through his viewing orb and smiled at the comfort the two gave the blonde-haired container. The next day, Naruto woke up to someone playing with his whiskers and blowing in his ear. Naruto's eyes slowly opened and he saw a smiling Anko less than 3 inches from his face. Good morning, my little Gaki. This took Naruto by surprise and caused him to yelp and fall out of bed, hitting his butt real hard. Smooth Gaki, real smooth. Naruto shot a glare at his sensei and got up. Not that I don't mind waking up to your beautiful face, Anko-sensei, but why are you here? I still have an hour before we have to go to training. Naruto saw the small blush go across her cheeks and smiled. Despite Anko being a tease, she never had people compliment her a lot, and to hear it so sincerely from her student meant a lot. Well, Naru-chan, you and I gotta go talk to the Hokage about last night. He wants our report and to give us another mission, plus the old bat is there as well and wanted to give you a few more cards and said something about you have to pick up something. Naruto thought about what he had to pick up, then remembered the order Ba-chan had placed with Tenten earlier that week. His seer weapon, if he was not mistaken, but he didn't know how to use any weapons, then remembered he had the awesomeness of Anko as his sensei. Oh yeah, I gotta get my seer weapon from Tenten. Do you think you can train me to use it, Anko-sensei? Anko placed a finger at her lips and gave it a thought. Depending on the weapon, she might be able to teach him the basics, but she'd have to know what weapon he was getting. It depends on the weapon, Gaki. If I can't, then I'll find someone who can. No need for my favorite Gaki to run around with a weapon he can't, right? It'd make me look like a bad sensei. The next thing Anko knew, she had Naruto's arms wrapped around her, giving her a hug. She was shocked at first and almost flipped him, but then remembered just who was hugging her and decided to reciprocate. She could feel him stiffen for a few seconds as she returned the hug, but then he relaxed once he realized he wouldn't be punished for what he did. "Thanks Anko-chan, you're the best," he whispered into her ear, and she smiled knowing she made his life a little better. "No problem Naru-chan, and just this once I'll let you get away with calling me Anko-chan." Though I did not mind it really. Sounds cute coming from him. There I go again with the crazy thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna take a shower and get dressed. You want me to meet you at Gigi's office? Sure kiddo, I'll meet you there, just don't be late, okay? If you're not there in 20 minutes I'm gonna make training hell for you today, got it? She laughed in her head when she saw the look of terror on his face as he rushed into the bathroom, then came out a second later. Forgot my towel, hee. She smiled and shook her head as she vanished in a swirl of leaves. In the Hokage's office, the Hokage and Teresa were enjoying cups of tea. Sarutobi had just finished his paperwork for the day, given out missions. Now he was relaxing with what was becoming his favorite female besides his former wife, rest her soul. "Anko is coming in," Teresa said just as Anko knocked on the door. "Come in Anko." Anko walked in and had a look of confusion on her face. "How did you?" "Anko-chan, I am the Hokage. It would be bad if I didn't know who was coming to my office. Please have a seat, I can sense you have some questions for me." "Where is Naruto?" "Gaki is taking a shower and getting dressed as we speak." "Speaking of the Gaki, I need some advice." "Then I shall try to give whatever help I can." "Now what troubles you?" Anko took a deep breath knowing she'd need to give as much detail as possible. "Well, after you assigned me as his sensei Naruto and I went to Ichiraku's to eat. While there his friend Tenten showed up and Naruto introduced us to each other. We shook hands and for some reason we had a subtle catfight over Naruto. I can't really explain it. It's like we were both being possessive of him. Do you got any advice for me, old man?" The Hokage stroked his beard and looked at his blind companion, quietly giggling at hearing Anko's tale. He knew just what was going on. "Well Anko, to put it simply, you care for Naruto. After everything he's done for you and after watching him find out the truth about himself, you've subconsciously taken it upon yourself to protect him as a way of saying thanks. Now it's not uncommon for Jonin sensei to develop these types of relationships with their students, and you are no exception. Now if this were to develop into something more like a romantic relationship, then it could be a problem. Not saying it will, not saying it won't. Is this advice helping you, Anko?" Anko nodded and realized that must have been it. She was in a way protecting him and thanking him for everything he's done for her. At least she hoped that's what she was doing. She was drawn out of her thoughts when she heard the door open and Naruto came in, giving Teresa a hug followed by her. He asked the old man what he needed and Anko noticed Naruto hadn't let go of her yet and he was surprisingly very warm. She decided the hell with it and wrapped an arm around his shoulders since it seemed he wasn't letting go anytime soon. A few hours later, Anko and Naruto both walked into the 10 Points weapon shop and Anko was glad not to see Tenten at the counter. Instead, a much older-looking version of the bun-wearing girl was seen. She saw Naruto walk in and smiled at him. "Hello Naruto-kun. What can I do for you today?" "I'm here to pick up my weapon today, Ka-san. Also I'd like you to meet my sensei Mitarashi, Anko." "I've met Anko-san before, Naruto. She and Ibiki-san like to come here to buy their weapons and thing they need for their division." "How has Ibiki-san been, Anko-san?" "He's been good. Work is all he does." "So what weapon did my Gaki order, if you don't mind me asking?" "I need to see if I can teach him or if I need someone else to instruct him on how to use it." "Ah yes, the order Teresa-san put in. It was a little difficult to find the reference to create this weapon, but we managed to do it. Let me go get it for you." Anko really hoped it was a weapon she could teach him to use, because she knew Tenten could teach him how to use it if it was anything she couldn't, and she really didn't want the bun-haired girl spending too much time with her Gaki. "My Gaki? Why am I being so protective of him? Is it like the Hokage said and I'm just subconsciously protecting him, or do I really have feelings for the kid? Granted, he's everything a girl could want in a guy, but he's too young and he would only get hurt if we started anything. I need a drink." Tenten's mother came back carrying a strange-shaped bundle which Anko could tell was some type of sword. "Please let it be a katana. I mean, they're cliché, but at least I could teach him how to use it." Anko hoped as the woman placed the weapon on the counter. "Here you go, Naruto-kun. Unwrap it and take a look at it. I think you'll be very happy with my work. My husband did the seals on it that Teresa-san asked for and the engravings, but I designed and made it. I really hope you like it." Naruto smiled and began unwrapping the cloth that covered what felt to be a lightweight blade. When the covering came off, Naruto was in awe of the design and look, but also confused as he had never seen a weapon like this. I love how it looks, but what is it? Naruto studied his new weapon, eagerly noticing the length of the blade, the rings hanging off of it, and seal on the end of the handle cap. His fingers traced the skull engravings along the blade's length. According to Teresa-san, it's called a Dao Naruto-kun, a special type of single-edged blade used exclusively by now extinct soul seers of the East. Most historians would call it a broadsword, and the reason it has those rings on the other side of it is because legend states that the more rings a seer's weapon had, the more powerful it was, with 9 being the max. The second version of this weapon is called a Guan Dao. Naruto looked at Tenten's mother with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. Second version? What do you mean? Anko looked interested as well. She had never seen anyone use a weapon like that before, nor had she ever heard of the soul seers of the East. She had heard legends from her ex-sensei of a group of monks in both the East and West that fought with strange weapons, but she always thought they were just that, legends. Naruto-kun, apply some of your chakra to the seal on the handle cap. Anko-san, I suggest you move from behind Naruto's sword handle. Anko, not being one to ignore warnings, moved out of the way as Naruto applied a small bit of chakra to the seal, about as much as he normally put into both his scrolls and cards, and watched as the handle not only straightened but lengthened to about 5 feet with a small chain hanging off it. Attached to the chain was a coin with a weird skull on it. Cool, Naruto exclaimed rather loudly, making both women smile at his happiness. I'm glad you like it, Naruto-kun. A voice came from the doorway. Ba-chan. Naruto smiled as Teresa walked in, a smile on her face as Naruto studied the weapon he held in his hands. I'm glad it came out well. You do marvelous work, Seiku, both you and your husband. Tenten's mother Seiku smiled at the compliment. Why, thank you, Teresa-san, but without your references we couldn't have designed it. I'm glad it's to your standards. Well, beyond them actually. Tell me, Naruto-kun, how does it feel? In both forms, if you don't mind. Naruto nodded and hefted the polearm. The weight is more than I thought it would be, but other than that I really like how the Guan Dao feels in my hands. Naruto deactivated the seal and watched as the handle shrunk back. The chain with the coin was missing, he noticed. In this form it's a lot lighter and I feel like I can do more. Where did you get the idea for this, Ba-chan? Teresa smiled and held her hands together as she spoke. Your blade, Naruto-kun, your new seer weapon, is not the first of its kind. 2 men, one known to most ninja as the Rikudo Sennin and another, a monk by the name of Ling Juzu, once wielded blades very similar to yours. The Rikudo Sennin was not the first soul seer, but he was the first user of ninjutsu, while Ling Juzu was the first soul seer. I figured I'd honor them both by making your seer blade 2 weapons in one. Naruto was about to talk, but Anko cut him off. She had heard of the famed Rikudo Sennin. Hell, most ninja have heard of the fabled Sage of 6 Paths, but to hear he was actually real, Anko could hardly believe that. I thought the Rikudo Sennin was just a myth? Teresa looked at Anko and smiled. Not true, Anko-chan, in fact he is the great ancestor of both the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan. Only those who study such things would know this though, as it only interests them. Now before we get into any more discussions, Anko, can you teach Naruto to use both forms of his seer weapon? Anko looked at Naruto and smiled, though inside she was upset. Sure, she could teach him to use the Dao. It would very similar to using a katana, but the Guan Dao, she really had no choice. It was similar to a bow staff, but the Hokage would be too busy to teach Naruto, meaning she had no choice but to ask for Tenten's help. I can teach him the Dao, but the Guan Dao, I don't know how to use a weapon like that. Seiku joined in the conversation when she heard this. I'm sure Tenten can teach him. She's bound to know how to wield a polearm weapon like that. I know she knows how to wield a naginata, which is kinda similar. Naruto looked at his sensei and could see she was not happy, though no one but him could notice apparently. Naruto wanted to make her happy and did the only thing he figured he could do with one open hand. He grabbed hers and squeezed. Anko looked down and saw his student holding her hand, and he simply smiled at her, making her smile back. You're always looking out for me, aren't you, kid? She wouldn't punish him for doing what he did. She knew he was merely trying to make her feel better, which it did sort of. Well, I'll let Tenten know when she gets home later today. I'll let you two go so you can get to your training. Enjoy the blade, Naruto-kun. I will, Ka-san. Come on Anko-chan. I mean sensei. Anko smiled at him as the two walked out of the shop with Teresa following close behind. Hey Gaki, head to the training ground and wait for me there. Teresa and I have to talk. Okay, bye Ba-chan. Naruto took to the rooftops towards the forest of death, leaving the two alone. You're developing feelings towards him, Anko-chan. Anko didn't answer right away. She watched as her student leapt away on the rooftops. I know, I just don't want him to get hurt, but you're afraid if you pursue a relationship with him that's what'll happen. Know that Naruto would never intentionally hurt you, Anko-chan, it's not in his nature. Whatever you decide for the two of you he will understand and respect. Just don't take too long making your decision or else someone else will claim him. I know, so what are the rings on his sword actually for? That didn't seem like a normal type of metal. Very perceptive of you, it's a special metal used to channel souls and spiritual energy for some of Naruto's new soul release jutsus. Kanten? Never heard of it. It's a special type of jutsu that only soul seers can use, seeing as they are the only ones who can see souls. When Naruto first activates his seer mode, I will teach him to properly use his weapon. Everything else is up to you as his sensei, now go to him. I notice Naruto-kun's aura becomes very depressed when neither of us is around. Anko took off towards the rooftops after her student as the old women watched her, glad her advice helped a bit. I just wonder who Naruto will ultimately choose. His childhood friend or his sensei? Only time will tell. Anko sat there in the shinobi-only bar waiting for her friend Kurenai to meet her. While she was glad to have the advice of the Hokage and Teresa, she felt as though Kurenai would be able to help her more, as she and Ibiki usually gave her sound advice. She didn't have to wait long as the red-eyed genjutsu mistress walked in and smiled, seeing her friend wave her over to the table. Hey Anko, congrats on making full Jonin and getting a team. I'm so happy for you. Anko took a small sip of the tea she was having. When they finished training for the day, Anko told Naruto she was going to the bar to meet a friend, and the blonde simply told her to be careful and take it easy on the drinking. So here she was with a cup of green tea instead of sake. The Gaki had more influence than she thought. So what's going on, Anko? You seem distracted, is it a guy? Yes, no, I don't know. That's why I need your advice, Nai-chan. Kurenai poured herself a cup of tea and placed it down in front of her, looking at her friend who for the first time since the whole Orochimaru incident was distressed. Tell me Anko, what's troubling you? Anko took a deep breath and knew this would take a while. Well, you see, recently I met this guy that before now I've never actually talked to him. I've seen him around the village but never talked to him. He seems to know my curse seal causes me pain, so out no reason other than to see me not in any more pain he asks his sensei to help me. She removes the part of Orochimaru's soul that is within my curse seal and basically frees me from him. That's the first thing he's done for me, and there's more he's done. More? He must really care for you, do that and more for you? What else has he done? Anko began blushing and Kurenai immediately noticed the effect this guy had on her friend. Whoever he was, she was falling for him, that's for sure. He looks out for me constantly. Whenever I'm upset or sad, he does whatever he can to make me feel better and smile, whether it be buying me dango late at night or hugging me or holding my hand. Whoa whoa whoa, you let him hold your hand and hug you? Now I'm really interested in this guy. So he seems like a perfect guy. He cares about you. He takes care of you. It's obvious you care about him, so what's the problem then, Anko? Hesme student. Anko mumbled and Kurenai didn't get to hear her. I didn't hear you, Anko, what was that you said? Kurenai had never heard Anko so shy about anything, so for her to mumble her answer meant something. He's my student, Nai-chan. I got feelings for my student Naruto. Yeah, see now why it's a problem. I'm 10 years older than him and I'm his teacher. While he makes me happy and has said numerous times he'd do anything to protect me and my happiness, I don't want him to get hurt. Anko, look, I'm sure you've been told this before, but things like this between sensei and student are not rare. In fact, they are more common than you think. Hell, if I wasn't with Asuma, I'd probably be interested in his student Shikamaru. He may be lazy, but he's got a brain like you wouldn't believe, just like my Asuma-kun. Trust me, Anko, if Naruto truly makes you this happy, you owe it to yourself to pursue that happiness. Hell, if anyone in this village deserves happiness, it's you too. But ultimately it's your decision, just don't take too long making it. I hear guys, female student Tenten also has her eye on Naruto. Kurenai was now done with giving advice and wanted to tease her friend Abbott. Bitch, better stay away from my Gaki. Anko said before chugging her now lukewarm tea down. Oh, so now he's your gaki? Kurenai had to take a sip of tea to prevent herself from giggling. Damn right he is, him and I have a bond. Panda girl wants him, she's gonna have to go through me, I don't share. Anko was now downing shots of tea, forgetting the fact it wasn't sake since Naruto told her to take it easy. Ooh, Anko's defending her man. Go Anko. Hey, where are you going, Anko? Anko looked at her friend and smiled, that same smile she gave before interrogating someone. To go find my gaki. Anko took off out of the bar, leaving a giggling Kurenai. She was soon approached by Asuma, Guy, and Kakashi. Hey, what's so funny, Nai-chan? Asuma said, putting out his cigarette as he got to the table. Kakashi closed his book and put it away, knowing juicy gossip was at times better than icha-icha, though not by much. Nothing, Asuma-kun. Just things are about to get more interesting around here when it concerns Naruto. That got everyone's attention, including Kakashi's. While he may not be Naruto's sensei like he had hoped, he still planned to take care of him however he could. Oh, most youthful Naruto? Do tell Kurenai-chan. Kurenai giggled, not knowing whether she should tell or not. Let's just say, Guy, that Tenten has very big competition for little Naruto. Guy became very interested. It was no secret on Team 9 that Tenten liked Naruto. Though she didn't go fangirl like some did for the young Sasuke, she still had feelings for him and would defend him when people talked bad about him. Kakashi and Asuma were interested in who Tenten's competition was. Their minds went through every female genin and none of them seemed like possible candidates, as none showed interest in the blonde container, making their curiosity skyrocket. So who is that Tenten is going against? Kakashi said, trying to sound uninterested. Yes, Kurenai-chan. WHO goes against my youthful student? She must be very youthful to keep up with not only Naruto but to make Ten worry as well. Guy actually didn't know who Tenten was up against. All he knew was that his student was no longer the sole bearer of Naruto's affections. He knew it was possibly an older female, as Tenten was mumbling old hag, but to girls of Tenten's age, anyone from a year older to 90 years older can be considered an old hag, so that didn't narrow it down. I'm not telling, you guys are John and Ninja, figure it out for yourselves. Kurenai giggled before taking a sip of her tea. She wasn't going to outright say it was Anko, but she knew most of them would immediately think one of the new genin, which almost made her burst out laughing. I wonder how Anko is doing with her gaki. Kurenai had to laugh in her mind at that one. Meanwhile, across town, Anko stood there watching as her only pupil slept seemingly at peace. She watched as he would roll over and occasionally mumble her name, making her smile, but it seemed Naruto's happy dreams were coming to an end as he began tossing and turning. What's going on? He was perfectly fine a second ago. Anko thought as Naruto began to thrash about, screaming as if in pain. No, I didn't do anything. I'm not a demon. My parents loved me. No. Anko could see red chakra emanating from the seal on his stomach, along with his nails and canines growing into sharp fangs and claws. Anko rushed to her student and pulled him close against her. Naruto, it's okay, I'm here. I'm here, Naruto, calm down. Naruto was still struggling in her grasp. The red chakra was receding, but only slightly. No, I'm not a demon. Anko-chan, Ten-chan, Ba-chan, Gigi, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Naruto at this point was shedding tears and clutching at Anko's jacket like a security blanket. Anko was a tough girl and didn't cry often, but seeing this nearly made her shed tears as well. Anko whispered to him and began petting his hair, making sure he knew he wasn't alone. It's okay, Naruto, I'm here. I'm not gonna leave you, I promise, I'm here for you. Shish, don't cry, Naruto, I got you, I got you. Slowly the tears were being dammed up as Naruto began to go back into restful sleep. Anko smiled as Naruto snuggled closer to her and let out a sigh of content, feeling her warmth against him. I'll never leave you, Naruto, that's a promise I don't intend on breaking. Anko repositioned them so she was sitting against the wall with Naruto's head in her lap, his face once again full of peace. She slowly stroked his whiskers and almost giggled when he tried to rub his cheek into her hand like a fox. She decided she would probably skip training tomorrow and do a few D ranks with him. After all, he couldn't take the Chunin exam unless he did a certain number anyway. Anko-chan, Naruto mumbled as he curled up, keeping his head in her lap. She could hear him sniff her a few times as if he was getting her scent. Slowly Anko's eyes began to drift close until both sensei and student were fast asleep. The next morning Naruto awoke to a feeling of warmth and comfort he had felt never. He looked up and saw his sensei sleeping, her body leaning against the wall of his bedroom while his head was in her lap. Normally he would freak out and fall out of bed, but after being scared awake by her so many times he was kinda used to it. Anko-chan is so warm. I'm not gonna wake her, she seems too comfortable. Naruto nuzzled his cheek into Anko's leg before trying to go back to sleep, but his actions woke up the snake mistress. Morning sensei, not that I don't mind, but what are you doing in my bed with me? Anko smiled at him and he relaxed once he saw it wasn't a make your day hell smile. Just wanted to be close to my favorite Gaki is all. Plus you're a warm blanket for me and I'm a soft pillow, so we both win. Now get up and get dressed. You and I are gonna do as many D ranks today as we can get. I wanna get that damn requirement out of the way so you and I can train and do real missions. Anko didn't want to tell him about his nightmare. She figured she'd ask him about it later. For now she wanted to get work done. Okay sensei, do you want me to meet you anywhere? Naruto had to ask as it seemed to become a habit of theirs. No Gaki, I'll be here waiting now, go take your shower and get dressed stud. Naruto gave his sensei a weird look at the new nickname. Stud? Anko began smiling her usual smiles and pointed at him. You sure are. Wonder how much bigger you'll be in a few more years? Like a third leg already. Naruto wondered what she was pointing at and looked down only to see his tented pajamas. Squeaking in embarrassment, Naruto ran into his bathroom, leaving a laughing Anko on his bed. I can't believe sensei saw me like that. How embarrassing, Naruto thought before locking his door to take a shower. He trusted Anko, but he wouldn't put it past her to humiliate him some more. Meanwhile Anko was laughing, but inside she was amazed. Damn, for a kid his age, wow. I'm gonna have to keep that my little secret, otherwise I'm gonna have more to deal with than just Panda Girl. Wonder if she knows? Come on Naruto, I'd like to get there before most of the D ranks are taken. I'm coming sensei, just need to get my boxers on. Naruto came out of the bathroom in a pair of white boxers with frogs on them, and Anko was about to laugh but decided not to, as ironically she had panties with snakes on. I'm surprised you're not laughing sensei. Would, kid, but I won't as we got D ranks to do. Now let's go do some missions. 3 hours later. You call these missions? Naruto said as the 5 dogs he was walking decided to all run off with him in tow, while the 4 Anko was walking were perfectly trained. Anko had to laugh as her student came back from dropping his pack of dogs off bruised, dirty, and looking a lot worse for wear. These are chores. Anko had to suppress a giggle at seeing Naruto's condition. While she hated D-rank missions, the kid had to do a certain amount to be eligible to be in the Chunin exams. Yeah, there, but we got to do them. Don't worry kiddo, only got another 3 more to do today, and then we'll do another 6 tomorrow and 2 more after that to get you the minimum. Then we can go do C-rank missions, sound good? Naruto smiled at her, knowing that his sensei hated doing these chores as much as he did. Well, let me drop these guys off, then we can finish the last 3. Then if you're up for it I can teach you to use that sword and you can show me some of those cards of yours. That sound good, my little Gaki? Naruto nodded rapidly, making her smile. He didn't even notice her calling him her little Gaki. After both had finished their D ranks for the day, Naruto and Anko were walking towards an empty training ground. Did you have to do D ranks too, Anko-sensei? No Gaki, I didn't, because at the time the 3rd Great Ninja War was starting up, so it was C rank and up only. Part of me is glad for these D ranks. You get to keep your innocence and not have it destroyed. Naruto gave her a confused look. What do you mean, sensei? Anko sighed. This was never easy to talk about. Naruto, you and your age group are lucky since you never had to deal with war or its consequences. When I was growing up we had to do C, sometimes even A rank missions right out of the academy due to the fact the war was going on. Thankfully we live in an age of peace where we can do these stupid little chores and not have to turn you guys into cold-blooded killers right out of the academy. Naruto had never seen his sensei so serious before. Most of the time she had a playful tone in her voice even when she was supposedly acting serious. She soon flashed a smile at him and he smiled back. Now you think you can show me those cards of yours? From what I can tell most of them are genjutsu based, which means despite your poor chakra control I can make you into a great genjutsu specialist like my friend Kurenai. We maybe even be able to make you a genjutsu and ninjutsu specialist. What do you think of that? Naruto jumped in the air yelling that he was gonna be the greatest genjutsu and ninjutsu specialist ever, making Anko smile. The boy just couldn't be still ever. Oh, by the way, Anko-sensei, I made a card I wanted to give you. If you're ever in trouble, just pump some chakra into it. Anko stared at the card's art and saw a young samurai in full armor with a sword in his right hand standing in front of a woman in a kimono who looked scared. Under the picture was a gold rectangle with the words, "The Protector," written in black. She smiled and had an idea just what this card did and gave him a kiss on the forehead, making Naruto's face go beet red. Thank you, Gaki. I'll keep this close always and use it when I get into a real jam. Now let's get started on your sword training. Meanwhile, two individuals were watching the exchange in the trees, trying not to be seen. My youthful rival, did you see that? Could Anko-san be the one that has Tenten-chan worried? Guy was trying to be as quiet as he could. I don't know, Guy. We don't have enough info to make any assumptions. For now, let's add Anko to our list of possible candidates.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.